energy you are saving with money is that you don't have to move the fruits. You just move the money, and the energy saved is in fact the value of the monetary system. It's the value of using a monetary system compared to barter. So even a monetary system as a whole can be its value can be measured in joule in the energy that's saved. But evidently, the calculation is too complex. Would be too complex to perform because you have too many goods and services being traded. So you can do it in qualitative analysis, but not quantitative analysis.
Is there a way to measure the social value? I mean, the energy value of a Bitcoin is, you can actually measure it because like, oh, how much did it cost to produce that one Bitcoin? I mean, you don't know for sure where this Bitcoin was actually mined and all those things, but is there a way to actually also measure the social value of a Bitcoin, of like how much social value is in there versus how much energy value?
Yeah, you can. Well, the first rough estimate I would suggest in doing so would be using the law of Metcalfe that says, the value of a network is the square is a function of the square of the number of the users. So for a monetary system that's a network, I would use the same formula and say it's quadratic. It's a function of the square of the number of users. And that would give you a reasonably good estimate of the social value. But again, it would be difficult to be more precise than a rough estimate. But I suppose economists could do it. It's just that they have to. Most economists have to understand Bitcoin even before they understand what's in my book and thermodynamics.
Yeah, it's funny how most economics people don't even really understand Bitcoin and dismiss it just out of the gate. It's really interesting how many uninformed experts there are on economics that have no clue about Bitcoin.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
No, you're right. And Friedrich Hayek, the economist that was Nobel Prize of Economy, that's the Austrian School of Economy, used to say, I believe he was saying something like, economist is not a real job. You have to have a real job and to do economy, because if you don't have a real job, you cannot talk about the economy. And I think he was absolutely right. And I would add that today economists don't know a thing about Bitcoin, but they don't know either sufficiently about energy the science of energy is completely alien to them. And I think without knowing a little bit about the science of energy, you cannot do economics. That's what I found studying energy.
Super interesting. There's a lot of interesting examples of those fields, because if you've never worked in an entrepreneurial spirit or like somewhere in the private market, and you've kind of learned economics from university and then just switched to being a professor directly in economics, you don't really know anything about economics outside of the things that are taught in the books. And you're like, oh, like have you actually like learned about the economic structure, how it's actually working out there, and not just like how it is described in the book and theories, because theory is sometimes very different to what's actually going on.
Yeah, some people sometimes compare this kind of education, this kind of academia, to a Ponzi scheme, because in fact they are saying, well, you have one professor of economy, and in fact his job is to train a bunch of new economic professors, but at no point in time their work is useful to society as a whole. They are just feeding their own Ponzi, and there is some truth to this remark. That's pretty critic of our economics. But that's what I think about economics. It's not a real science. It's just a subject that everybody should work, and you can only work on it as if you have an experience in real life with a real job.
Yeah, like asking an economics, like what's his opinion. First, we should ask, like, oh, did you build a company, or like what did you do? I don't know if building a company is necessary to understand economics, but I think it's very hard to understand the full scope of the financial system and the economic situation if you have no experience in building a product, building, finding a market, and dealing with different tariffs, building global things. Like it's really like I learned a lot about our system once I went from being an employed like I learned a lot about economics when I switched from school to being employed. I learned a lot more from being employed to being self-employed, and now from being self-employed to having 2-3 people working for you and doing kind of more entrepreneurial spirit, like more startup thing. I haven't built big companies yet, so I have a lot of levels to go and lots of things to still discover, but only on the small level. I'm like, there's so much I had no clue about when I was in school. And then I had also so much that I had no clue about when I just was employed, because there's a different mindset, a different experience that you make with those things. So I like that, learning while doing it.
Yeah, I think we can also note that the profession of the economics, the economic professors and all that, they are really an offspring of the central banking system, because they think they can approach the economy on a global basis because there is a monopoly of money. So they become expert of that monopoly, and they believe they are in the belief that they can control the entire economy with the monopoly, which is obviously a myth. It's an illusion. And Hayek explains that very well in his writings. It's an illusion that you can control the economy with a single monetary system. But they believe so, and they are an offspring of this central banking system, what some people call the fiat standard, that Safedin Amos wrote the book about the fiat system, fiat standard. I think that's really a result of the fiat system. The state of the economics in academia is really an offspring of this central banking approach.
One thing is interesting, what I've learned just with being entrepreneurial minded, is that prices are subjective and debatable. It's really interesting with before I was doing anything other than being employed, I just went into the shops and like bought it, and I was like, oh, the price is this, I have to pay this. Now I recently bought 3 monitor screens, and I negotiated and I got a 12% discount, like in like a normal electronics store. Like previously I wouldn't even thought about asking for a discount, but that's just a random story. I don't know if this has anything to do with that. I just thought about that with the learnings you have along the way from doing things.
That's a useful approach of the economy because you are saving money that way.
Exactly, and
Everything is
I learned
negotiable.
that the prices are set by humans, and those humans might change their mind if you ask them nicely about it.
And they are priced by imperfect systems because there is no such thing as a perfect monetary system. So price distortions are commonplace because there is no such thing again as perfect markets or perfect information.
That's true. Yeah, it's interesting. And the market is not efficient.
Well, reasonably efficient, but not perfect. That's for sure.
And what is actually for you the main learning, or like if people only take away one thing from a book, like what do you think this one thing should be?
I think they should understand the 3 principles that I write about in the book, the 3 principles that govern energy. That is, in fact, the universe surrounding us. Knowing and understanding the 3 principles is really helpful because it explains so many phenomena, and everything becomes less mysterious and less frightening if you know about the 3 principles. So my book is mostly about the 3 principles. First is principle of conservation for energy. That is, You don't consume energy, you use energy, you can only transform it. Energy was never created and it cannot be destroyed. So it has no beginning and no end. So that's something people should know about. Second principle is about entropy. It introduces the concept of entropy. So people should know about entropy. That is something that can be information that can be replicated and that serves, in fact, to that's a measure of the organization of the world and of our own body. And the third principle is the most interesting and the most intriguing, less known than the first two principles. And in fact, the title of the book could have been the third principle, but my publisher preferred energy is the flip side of money because it makes connection with my background in Bitcoin, etc. But to be honest, it could have been titled the third principle. And the third principle says simply that any system will tend to self-organize to maximize the flow of energy through it. And when I say system, it's just any system, including living beings like humans. So we are designed, and it's in our profound nature, to maximize the amount of energy we capture and transform. And to maximize this flow of energy, we self-organize. We self-organize by growing. And we self-organize as a species, as member of the species. So we self-organize as individuals. For instance, when we learn, we self-organize through learning, but we also self-organize as members of the species, which is itself a self-organizing system. So it's like, Russian puppets. You have, elementary particles, atoms, molecules, living beings, etc., all the way up to the entire universe that are all systems that are forms of energy that try to self-organize to maximize their flow of energy. So it's kind of fascinating phenomenon that's at work. But it explains, for instance, Darwinian evolution. Why is it that there is a phenomenon like Darwinian evolution? It's very intriguing, and it explains very simply by the third principle, because species will tend to self-organize to maximize their flow of energy. That is, their ability to capture energy. For instance, if it's a species of predators, they will evolve to capture as many prey as possible, and also they will evolve to be able to multiply, to have as many members as possible. As a system, a species will tend to grow and multiply the number of its members. But because all the species are doing the same thing, they're all trying to maximize their flow of energy. They are in competition for the available flows of energy. And so again, Darwinian evolution is easily explained with the third principle. But there are many other examples that I give in the book that show that the third principle is at work and how important it is to understand the third principle, because without it, things tend to look mysterious. And you have a very uniting explanation at hand with science of energy.
This is super interesting because so you basically, it's like flowing of the energy. So basically people trying to capture as much resources as possible in their own realm. Is this explaining why Elon Musk and other successful people trying to keep trying to capture more and more resources, even though they don't really need to? Like they could also just like relax. He could also do less,
absolutely. It explains why you are happy when you think you feel this flow of energy, and you are happy when you learn and you reduce your entropy because you know it's maximizing, it's contributing to maximizing the flow of energy. Because self-organization is just making it easier for energy to go through the system. So that's as simple as that. There are many obstacles for a system for energy to flow through it, but if you self-organize, you're just making it easier for the energy to flow through it, and that's why you're happy when you capture energy, and you're happy when you're reducing your entropy. And when your entropy, for instance, becomes stable, you don't learn anymore. You're bored. Where people talk about boredom, but boredom is just a sign that you're not reducing your entropy anymore. There is no more entropy flowing. That means if entropy is not flowing, energy is not flowing. The second principle tells us that to reduce entropy, you have to supply energy. So that means uh, it's if you're not reducing your entropy, your flow of energy is not increasing, and as a result, you will feel depressed. And yeah, that's a good example of these principles at work, and in fact, influencing our level of happiness.
Is then fear kind of minimizing or distorting the free flow of energy while Bitcoin is kind of maximizing this? Like, is fiat kind of distortion in this free flow of energy?
Fear is an emotion. Yes, and emotions are like algorithms. That's explained. That's another book that's dealing with this. It's the book called Sapiens by Yuval Harari. Sapiens explains that yes, you have emotions at work in a species, and they are like a fast way of thinking and reacting. So they are algorithms. So fear, for instance, is a survival mechanism to decide to escape a predator or face a predator. So you're activating an algorithm that's called fear, and emotions are essentially algorithms. And that's an interesting observation I found, because people have generally speaking, and that's a heritage of 19th century Germany. It's what's called the Romantic movement, and people have a very romantic concept of emotions, like they are. Emotions are desirable. Emotions make you happy. Emotions make you humans. In fact, it's the exact opposite. What makes us human is our rational side, because emotions can be found in animals. Animals can love, for instance. Animals can have fear because they are algorithms. Again, they are found in many evolved living beings. And the thing that makes us human is, in fact, reasoning. So it's the exact opposite of what people tend to say. They tend to say that emotions makes us human, but no, it's the opposite. And I think it's important to understand that and to find a balance and regard emotions with a distance, not become enslaved by our emotions, but and that's a teaching you find in, for instance, Oriental philosophies like Buddhism. Buddhism teaches you to beware of your emotions because they can be misleading and they can make you unhappy. And for me, it's an interesting observation, because my thesis is that what makes you happy is your flow of energy and entropy. It's not your emotions. If you understand that, it's a much more general approach that's valid for many more people than if you say emotions will make you happy, because that's very subjective. If you say it's your flow of energy and entropy that makes you happy, then it's applicable to almost universally to everybody. So it's important to understand this concept because of that. But again, it's very like I said, it's a life-changing discovery if you are on a Socratic path, trying to know yourself. It's evidently a very important finding, and that's again why I wanted to share it in my book.
I asked about the fiat currency, not fear, but I loved your answer so much, so I kept you
Okay. Sorry.
It's really interesting, this distortion of fear in the reasoning, because it's really true, because if an animal, they don't reason, they have an instinct and just do it, which can be quite nice, but honestly the reasoning behind things and the pushing back on an instinct that we have is the thing that differentiates us from animals. Then it's like, okay, then what is AI? That's like only reasoning without emotions. I don't know, like maybe the play of having emotions and reasoning is what makes us human. I
Yeah,
don't know.
emotions can be life-saving, a mechanism. Huh? So I don't underestimate emotions. I just say, don't overestimate emotions. They can be overrated as well.
But back to the question I wanted to get to is the fiat currencies. Is this also distorting kind of the free flowing of energy and kind of making the market distorted, as it kind of captures energy without really providing any value to society?
Yeah, absolutely. The fiat system in general, and because fiat system doesn't apply only to money. You have fiat spirit, I would say, in education, for instance, with the inflation of diplomas. For instance, you have, for instance, I can see it in France, where many more people get diplomas today than maybe 50 years ago, and as a result, there is a depreciating value in diplomas because there is this inflation of diplomas. So the fiat spirit can really infiltrate many levels of society, and that's explained again by other people like Seyfedin Amos. I believe Jimmy Song also wrote about this with Fiat Ruins Everything. That's an excellent book. Also, Fiat Ruins Everything. So yeah, going back to fiat money, I totally agree with you. It's distorting prices because it's depreciating money. So it's making inflation is the resulting phenomenon. And Hayek, again, has written extensively about that, the effect of inflation. And the principal critics of inflation, according to Hayek, is that it's an accelerating phenomenon. In other words, if you start with mild inflation that looks like it's under control, is showing that in fact it's not sustainable. It has to accelerate to maintain itself. Otherwise, you have what we are seeing, which is a repeatedly financial crisis to correct the effects of inflation. So yes, it's distorting prices. In fact, my point is more that the monopoly of money is more detrimental than anything else. Inflation is just a consequence of the fiat system and the debt money, but the most detrimental to society, in my view, is, and Hayek is I'm a disciple of Hayek, evidently, in saying that the monopoly of money is very detrimental because there is no reason, in fact, for that monopoly other than enrich a few tens of thousands of people in Europe. But for 400 million people in Europe, so it's really a very small oligarchy of people that are running the fiat system, the central banking system. But that's really detrimental because you cannot have really capitalism until you have this monopoly of money. You have to have competition between currencies to experience capitalism and economic freedom. Otherwise, you have what's called sometimes crony capitalism. That is capitalism between a small circle of people that have access to very large amounts of money. But capitalism at family scale or individual scale become very, very difficult. And that's exactly what we are seeing with the middle class losing purchasing power and very large organizations developing through crony capitalism.
It's almost like Bitcoin is an extension or a representation of just natural laws like physics and energy and all those things.
Yeah, and it's enabling the competition between currencies, because before Bitcoin, it was very difficult to launch a currency and say, look, I have something that can compete with the euro or the dollar. It was extremely difficult before Bitcoin to say so. Now with Bitcoin, everybody can say, well, there is a system that competes with the euro or gets against the dollar, and that's called Bitcoin. In fact, the Americans, I believe, Robin, you are based in the US, so you can see it even better than me, even though I have lived in the US many years. But you could say that Americans have understood that Bitcoin is indeed a competition for the dollar. So instead of trying to kill it, they turn it into a US currency with major players like strategy.com, Coinbase, Kraken, very major players in the Bitcoin ecosystem that are based in America. So they really have a controlling hand on Bitcoin to some extent. At least they are not like Europeans. Europeans are playing it completely wrong because they're trying to nip it in the bud when in fact it's flourishing everywhere.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast, and if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.